Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Bison 64kSU logistics truck, the fifth vehicle in my military utility logistics or transport vehicles series. My name is Wimperman, and I am the chief designer, chief builder, chief architect, and chief dumbass behind the Bison logistics truck project. Now, before I go through my normal tour structure, there is some important information about this vehicle and its shields and power. Now, it has two generators that are on by default and another two that are set to a device group toggle that the shields is also part of. So when you turn the shields on with that switch, you also get two generators, two large generators, which helps with its power. Now, if you don't use that toggle and you just use your normal keybind to turn your shields on and off, that will mean that the shields won't have enough power and they will go pop, or the generators will. Now, I will cover that more when I get to the defenses, and I'll cover it again in the power bit, just for people who are skipping around in the video using the chapter markers. And when I get to the end of the video, I will, I'm sure like 99% of you can figure out how to undo that. But for the 1% of you who would need help with that, I will talk you through how to fix that if you don't like it. I personally like doing that, although it's only been in the couple of vehicles in the military logistics, the MULTV, see, Chief Dumbass, the MULTV series that I've started to do that. Although maybe if you've seen the tour of the Jackal main battle hover tank, I did actually put a shields switch. I think that was a custom signal rather than a custom device group toggle, but I then forgot why I had done it, and I didn't put extra power in it. By the time I actually got round to doing all the, device groups and sorting out all the signal logics, I'd forgotten that that's why I had done it, and then completely forgot on all the other vehicles. So, before I show you around this vehicle, there is kind of, I mean, it's not really an original vehicle, but there is sort of, it's the next one down from this in the series. It's the Banteng, the fourth vehicle. I will show you that now. So let's come out of that view. Thank you. So here it is. Oh, let's turn the HUD on as well. Don't look behind the curtain. So, yeah, I had forgotten to get this out. So hopefully with some clever editing, well, you won't notice, except that little message just gave away my secret. So here is the Banteng, the fourth vehicle. It's a 32kSU logistics truck. And I'm sure you can tell that this one, the new one, is just a larger version of this one. So it's not really an original vehicle, so I'm not going to bother with the segment title, but there you go. Oh, and I have a picture to show you. So the Banteng was based on that, and I mean, technically, so is the Bison now. So there you go. Right. So now I'm going to talk you around this new vehicle, starting with its role and its task equipment. Right then, so its role, and by the power of editing, the Banteng is gone, is an armed cargo and supplies transport. And to facilitate that role, it has two 32,000 SU cargo containers. That's the biggest that they can get, and it has two of them. I suppose technically you could call the thrusters part of the task equipment, because without the thrusters it wouldn't be able to move the cargo anywhere, but it probably went without saying. Right, next segment then is its propulsion, handling, and lift capacity. Right then, so its propulsion, starting round the back. Those of you who know will know. I'm going to turn that off for a second. Oh, I left the Gatling guns on. turrets. Right, so starting with its forward propulsion, it has 10 large tier 2 thrusters and 2 mediums. Obviously, there's 4 and 1 on each side, and then the other one. Braking and reverse, it has 6 large and 2 mediums. And then its lateral thrust, it has 5 large and 2 mediums. 1, 2, 3, 4. What? You can't count, Wimp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what I was trying to do. So 5 large and 2 mediums. So for lift, it has 4 hover boosters for your jumping needs. It has 6 large hover engines on by default. Now, with those 6 large hover engines, it will operate in up to 4.5 G, but that is dry weight. That's with nothing in it. Other than, I don't know if the game takes into account fuel and O2 in survival, because I'm too lazy to go and test. But in creative, it doesn't count that as part of its weight. So, then it has another 6 large hover engines set to max lift. And with max lift turned on, it will lift 244.7 tons-ish, give or take a bit or two, in 4G. Now, it does also have some RCSs. It has 6 of them. They aren't on by default, but you can switch them on independently of any of the other switches. Right. Its mobility, starting with its maneuverability, it will accelerate forwards at 29 meters per second squared. It'll reverse at 23 and go sideways at 20 meters per second squared. As for its agility, the most important thing I consider is yaw, 27 degrees per second. It'll do 11 degrees of pitch and 23 degrees of roll as well, but I don't find them very important on a HV. As for its handling, so this is one where I think you do need to put on pilot mode, but she handles a bit like this. And this is without the RCSs on. Now, the RCSs won't do much. In fact, let me show you. So, yaw, 27 degrees per second. Turn on RCSs with the toggleable. It's now 29. So, it's not a huge difference. But there was a bit of space, and it's already got enough fuel. So, I put in some RCSs. So there we go. Oh, and you also get to see what the view out the windscreen is like. So I'm going to park up. Okay, so that's the end of that segment. So the next segment then is its power, fuel, and air. Now, as I alluded to at the beginning of the video, in the little warning there, the power is slightly important. So it has 6 large generators in total. And I did do the mathematics, and that is enough to power everything. Now, 2 of those large generators are on by default. So whenever you press your keybind, or you go into the control panel, you turn power on here, it will turn on only 2 of the generators. The 2 of the others are set to the propulsion, etc. So they'll come on when you turn on the propulsion, etc. for the thrusters and the default hover engines. And then the important thing is that there are another 2 set to the shields switch, which is there. So without pressing that toggle, that switch, the shields won't have enough power to charge, and therefore the vehicle might go boomy. Fuel, it has 18 large fuel tanks. Oh, and I should say I'm going to show where all of this is later on when I go into the interior layout, but for now I'm just going to tell you about it. 18 large fuel tanks, and you'll see why later on, and a pentaxid tank. And O2 air, it has 8 O2 tanks that feed 2 ventilators and 2 O2 stations. 2, say 2 again. Right, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment then is its weapons, defenses, and construction. 2. Weapons. It has 8 Gatling turrets, which means it's not device limit compliant. You'll have to turn device limits off for this vehicle. But it has 8 of them, and those 8 are all set to what I consider to be my anti-personnel configuration. So they'll target NPCs, players, and predators, and also drones. Obviously, feel free to change those to whatever you want, but that's how it comes. Defenses has a shield, obviously, because I've mentioned it a few times. Now, just in case you are skipping around in the video, although there is a warning in the cockpit, but if you turn the shields on using your keybind, it won't have enough power. So you would need to use the shields switch under device groups. That will turn on 2 of the 6 generators to help power the shield. It is also armoured, being a military vehicle. Now, although some of this panelling here is hardened steel, pretty much all of the front is combat steel, apart from the windows, but they are armoured windows. In fact, they are in two layers of window. I don't know if you can tell, but there are 2 windows there, so a bit of protection. Obviously, nothing, not round the side, because that slopey window kind of broke that, really. And then the combat armour also goes across the roof. There's also a whole bunch around each of the turrets. And there's a small amount, I can't really see it because of the decorative blocks, but there is a small amount here to help protect the gubbins that are there. And construction-wise, so the rest of it is basically hardened steel, which is what I make all of my military vehicles out of, including the underside. This is hardened steel as well. Now, there is some steel on it. Can we see what it is? Can we find any? Is that steel? Yes, that's steel. Hull to hull armoured upgrade. So little decorative bits like this are not armoured. Stuff protecting the fuel is... Is that steel? Yeah, that's steel as well. So, there we go. Look at me, back on the shadowy side of the vehicle. Right, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment should be fairly quick. Resource gathering, production, and storage. Well, it has no resource gathering, no harvester modules, no drills. It has no production, so there aren't any constructors on board. And storage, so as I said at the beginning, but just in case you're skipping around, it has the 2 32kSU cargo containers. It has a 1500 SU ammo container. It then has 5 large and 2 small cargo boxes, 2 armour lockers, and 2 mini frigates. Moving on to the next segment then is its interior layout and any remaining devices. So before I go inside, I will show you any remaining devices that are outside. So docking pads only has 6 because I needed the room for these and these. So, and the detector war is there, which is under the floor-ish, kind of in the front there. Anything else? So a lot of this stuff will be covered in the signals and stuff, so don't worry about it too much. I'm actually going to start on the rear. Oh, and before I start on the rear, I'm going to turn the signals back on. So, the access to the cargo containers is the rear hatch here. Ramp, 2 shutter doors, 2 lights are on a motion sensor. You can't see it, but the motion sensor is there. So I've given you a ramp so that this is easier to access because, I mean, that's quite high. So, large cargo box and the 2 small ones are in here. along with obviously the cargo controllers. Moving round to the front, ramp, light, 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 door are all on a motion sensor. Oh, piss. Every single tour, basically. That. Yeah, it'll do. I just don't get it. So, there have been times where I've seriously thought the game just forgets what I've painted things. So, for example, like this here, there'll be these textures, and then there'll be one missing there, and then these textures again, and it's like, I couldn't possibly have missed that one. So, I think sometimes the game doesn't save a texture that you've painted, but then, like sometimes like this, it's just me. Right. I'm going to need to resave now. Okie dokie then, I've resaved it, fixed. So, as we come in, we have the generators on the back wall of the cab, along with the ammo, the pentaxid tank, and the core. The Wi-Fi is also just there. You can just see the blue glow of it. And two of the large cargo boxes. Now, between the generators and the stuff in the middle is hardened steel. There's also more hardened steel on the outside of them, the outboard of them, helping to protect them. I did just realize as well that this column of blocks is combat steel. So that's okay, I think. Going back to what I was saying earlier. So there's the motion sensors for the doors and the ramps on the outside. Then in here, motion sensor controls the lights. Also, this switch will leave them on when you get into a seat, because if you don't do that, the motion sensor can't sense your motion anymore because you're not in motion. As you can see, armor locker, O2 station, O2 tank at the bottom of it, and a ventilator at the top of it. Another of the large cargo boxes and the mini fridge. Same on the other side, it's a mirror image. 3 seats in here, a driver and 2 passengers. I think that's everything. So here is the... Is my light on? No, it's not. So here is the heads-up displays that I give to the driver that tells you what the various toggleables are and the warning about the shield. And since we're looking at the LCDs that show you what the toggleables are, that moves me nicely on to the shortcuts and signals segment. Now, just in case you use other vehicles of mine, there is a couple in different places on this vehicle. So, starting with the device groups, as usual, the first one is propulsion, etc. That will turn on all of the thrusters and what I referred to earlier as the default hover engines. Next one down is max lift. That'll turn on the other hover engines. Next one down after that is the RCSs, which turn on the RCSs, obviously. Next one down is the shields switch. Just in case you're skipping around in the video, this shields switch will turn on the actual shield block, as well as 2 of these generators. As you can see, only 2 of them are currently running. You turn the shields on using that switch, and 2 of the others turn on. The shields require 3,600 power units, and one of these is 1,500, so 2 of them is 3,000, which leaves only 600 for the shields to take from these. Again, if you don't use that switch and you just use the keybind, the shield won't have enough power to charge and everything might explode. Now, the last device group toggleable is the ventilators. Just in case this is the first tour of mine you've seen, I will go through this. but if this isn't the first tour of mine you've seen, I'll go through it quickly just so you don't have to waste too much of your time if you've heard it before. If you turn the oxygen off and you look at the power left, it doesn't change, because although the ventilators no longer blow any oxygen into the cab, it doesn't actually turn them off. So I give you a switch to turn them off to save some power. Ta-da, it saves a bit of power. So if you're in a breathable atmosphere, you can save a bit of fuel. Right, that's that out of the way. The signals. As usual, the first one is power save. Yeah, I know. So, power save in here will turn off, or on and off actually, the LCD displays. It'll turn on and off the light controls, the motion sensors, all of them, and the switch. It'll also turn off the passenger seats, because that saves power. And it'll turn off the Wi-Fi. I think I just got it there, yeah. Now, what it won't do is turn off the fridges. That doesn't look painted to me. Okay. So I didn't paint a few of the cargo boxes, so I'm just going to do that now. Give me a sec. Rightio, there we go. I've resaved again. Right. Oh, I also meant to mention, you probably have guessed, but all of the ground vehicles in the military utility logistics or transport vehicles series are all named after bovidae. I'm sure you may have guessed. So we've got ox, yak, wildebeest, banteng, bison. The next one up will be buffalo, in case anyone cares. Right. I don't actually need to be in here for the signals. Right, power save. I talked about everything that does. The next signal down does the Gatling turrets. I'm sure you can guess what that does. Floodlights and headlights. This one might be good for a demonstration. It's fairly simple though. So the floodlights are these small spotlight mode lights that are along the top. And then the headlights are simply the spotlight blocks along the bottom, which of course you can use your keybind for, but I give you a switch anyway. And then the last one down is tail lights. Of course, I have my red flares on the back, and if you don't like them, you can turn them off, and if you hate them, you can multi-tool them off. Now, one of the things that is in a different place is the tail lights. That quite often is over here in the device groups, but I needed to make room for the RCSS's, and I like them to be like balanced, 5 in each. Right then, so the next and last segment is its CPU and upgrading. Now, I forgot to take you into the back bit of this, so since the CPU extenders are in there, I will go in there now, but I meant to do it in the interior layout. Never mind. CPU, it is tier 4. It uses just over 52.7 thousand of the allowed 100,000. Now, just in case you're skipping around in the video and you didn't see it earlier, the core block is just there, surrounded by some nice combat steel. Now, the CPU extenders, here they are. So I'm sure you can guess, especially because we can see the controllers here. Each of the 32kSU containers are on either side of the vehicle. And so in the middle is a gap. Oh, there is a bit of armor behind those to help protect the fuel if you're being shot at from the back. There is also a little bit in between the fuel tanks and this stuff. Just in case the fuel tanks in here go pop somehow. Now, as you can see, 6 of the O2 tanks are in here. The other 2 are out here. The RCSs are there and there. Shield is obviously there. The CPU extenders are obviously there. Anything else? Oh, in case you really care, the container extensions for the ammo go out to there. They butt up against this stuff in between these. Yep, I think that's everything. So, as for upgrading, there is no built-in upgrade path. Now, that doesn't mean you can't personalize it. For example, if you're in single player, you won't need the extra seats. You are free to rip them out and put other stuff in here. Maybe a clone chamber, maybe something like that. Maybe a couple of constructors over here. Maybe you could take some of the Gatling turrets off and replace them with other turrets. I mean, if you don't care about the blocks, you can remove the shapes from around the turrets, and you could probably fit quite a lot in here, on here, if you want to turn it into some sort of mobile fortress thing. Oh, I forgot to mention that there is some fuel behind these. That's what this shape is. Fuel there. Shush you. Right, now, I did mention at the beginning that I would tell you how to fix the whole shield's power thing if you don't like it. Now, I'm sure you can figure this out yourself, but just in case you need any help, the power shields device group contains the two generators that come on with the shields switch. Now, if you don't like that, all you need to do is move these two generators into the power main device group, where the other default ones are. The propulsion ones are there as well, so if you don't like those turning off and on when you turn on the thrusters, you can of course move those there as well. One more thing to show you, and that is of course that it has multiple primary colours as part of the palette. Now, as you can tell, it comes in the desert sand colour here, but I've also included a military green and an Arctic white, which is ever so slightly blue, and a dark grey. Now, I'm sure it goes without saying, but you can, of course, swap those out for any colour you like. There are other colours in this palette that aren't used in the build, specifically these three here, but I'm sure you can figure them out by changing them and seeing what changes. Now, there is one last thing to do, which I like doing with my new builds, and that is to publish it on camera. I don't know why, as I've said in other tours, it just feels like you're part of the process then. There it is. Okay, so there we go. That'll end the tour of the Bison 64kSU logistics truck. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.